I want to talk to you about working with corporates. It's an area that if you worked in corporate, it will be more of a natural understanding. But if you haven't, I want to just talk about a few things to consider, a few watch outs, and have ways of approach. So the first thing that you need to really think about is your language. The well-being space for them may be familiar, it may not be, but I would say well-being and meditation are your access points. Anything to do with healing, universe, stuff like that can be off-putting for them. And it's just positioning things in a way that resonates with them and their staff. So keeping it the right side of hippie, as I like to say. And I hope you understand that sort of fine line there, but there is a difference. And what you want to do is you want to find out who the people are who run the human resources departments. And I would start at the top, and then they can always delegate down to whoever looks after any wellbeing events. And some companies, particularly the bigger ones, are now starting to come around to realising that if they think about wellbeing for their staff, then they will achieve their goals of having lack of absenteeism. People having days off sick costs companies money. With permanent contracts, sick days are included, and that is ultimately a company cost. So if you can offer a service which is going to help them to have a preventative method in place instead of a cure, this is a really good access point for them. So when you approach, you really want to start thinking, I would go by email so that they've got time to consider it and they can forward it on to different people to have a discussion about it. And the first thing I would do is introduce yourself and introduce the benefits of Gong sound healing. Sorry, I used the word healing. Gong sound meditation. And words that I would use would be managing stress, anxiety, issues with sleep, and also you might want to add in there helping create focus and creativity, because they're often buzzwords for the workplace as well. And you want to talk about how the Gong is accessible to everybody, and that the staff won't have to have a shower or anything in between, and that you could do a session in 45 minutes, so they could have it in their lunch break or before work or after work, and how it's great for all abilities and ages. They don't have to have flexibility, and they can have it seated in a chair, they can lie down on a yoga mat, but it is accessible to everybody, including deaf people. Deaf people really enjoy the vibrations. And that's another tick box for the HR teams. They don't want to offer things that are exclusive to any staff who don't have certain abilities. So that's another great thing in your favour. You want to be really clear in the letter about the contraindications though, which you should be learning in the course by now, and there's in the link and resources section you'll see the contraindications, and also on the Gong Business School website. And it's really important to note those and to say, once you do the negotiation, that they will need to communicate that to all staff, because you might find that if you're doing things on a bigger scale, you don't have time to do the intake forms for everybody. And they're hopefully be kept to a minimum of people they exclude, but to cover yourself, you really want to make sure that you've made that clear, and also for the companies to cover themselves. I would also really have a think about, there's two ways to approach how they'll know how they run their wellness offerings. And it might be that they do away days or retreats or special events or monthly sessions that they pay for, weekly if you're lucky. and that there's a budget that they have, which is allocated for well-being for their staff, or they might just provide facility and a space within the corporate workspace where they'll enable activities to go on and bring in the people who they think are right. So they'll provide the room, but they might not necessarily also provide the yoga mats and the blankets, but we'll talk about all that in a minute. But in terms of pricing, what you want to do is, it's a tricky one to start the conversation, but where I would start would be, I charge $20 per person. Definitely go high, because they either will have a budget, or the people that your target audience are people who are working and will have money. So it might be that you want to inflate it to $30, whatever feels right for you. But I would say this is how much I charge per person, and then you can work out a set figure. So if you're like working with loads of people, you can say, I'll cap it at a certain fee. And I really encourage you to make sure that you do cap it. If you haven't got individuals coming in and paying you cash on the day, I would then, if you're doing negotiation with the actual company, create a set fee, a minimum, and depending on how many people you're dealing with, you know, it could be $250, it could be $500, it could be $1,000, and just get to that point where you've negotiated that. But starting with what your per person fee is definitely a good starting point. So once you've got past all of that and they're interested and they've invited you to come, I would 100% go and do a recce on the location. Now, offices aren't the most exciting relaxation spaces, and they often have nasty lighting, horrible floors, and they probably won't have yoga mats and blankets. They might have yoga mats that they have in the gym, but they could be already allocated or a bit sweaty and a bit horrible. So you want to incorporate into your price that you want to invest in having enough mats to take to your events, and incorporate your time that it takes you to take that. I would definitely not set the room up in advance, so just get everybody to take a mat and take a seat. And but you know, having that is a significant investment if you have to, so you build that into your price. And then you also want to think about what lighting they have. If it is horrible lighting, I would definitely take some nice salt lights or anything that creates a bit of atmosphere. I would steer away from candles and incense. You can get lovely electric candles, and you get fairy lights or whatever you feel is going to bring people's mind to centre very quickly, because they're going to be going from work, bing, 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 to a relaxation situation. So that comfort and atmosphere is really super important to get right. And yeah, I think that is it. So have a think about what corporate companies are in your area. Don't be fearful if you've never worked in one. And if you have, then great, you might have some contacts already and you'll know how they work. But I think these pointers will really help you with getting started. So get out there, don't be afraid to charge, and go and help all those staff that need de-stressing in their lunch break or after work.